Hello and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, as always, my host compatriot, Sejohn Sarowick.
I like that when you get sick, you turn into a Chicago vampire.
I like that Chicago vampire is where you go. Really, I've been doing all sorts of crazy voices this week because I have been sick. I mean, if you listen to last week's episode, I had episode
Yep.
last week. Uh,
Oh God, you doing okay over there, man? You gonna make it?
yeah, I'm fine. I definitely had the sniffles last week, and as Sejan beautifully called out, did you just blow your nose without hitting your mute button? I did, Siege. I definitely did. Um, so I have been sick the entire duration from our recording, like that, like out of work sick because I was having the craziest fever dreams where my
Oh God.
brain had like turned against me. Like, here are all of your deepest, darkest fears. Deal with it, son. And the best part
So you
was,
so you saw it this week, is
no,
what
I
you're
didn't
saying.
see it. I still haven't seen it. What is it? It's it. What is it? Epic.
Oh God.
Any. So I mean, like that happened, but I beat all of my fears in my dreams, so that was pretty cool, right? Like really took them
Yeah,
head
man,
on and
that's
was like,
awesome.
I'm not afraid of you,
I want to play
fear.
this. I want to play this '90s platformer based on Devin's week off.
And the other thing that I've done is I've been rewatching BoJack Horseman, and like BoJack Horseman, as much as it's Will Arnett's show, really it is Paul F. Tompkins getting to do 100 voices. So I have been doing just 100 voices whenever I get the opportunity. I'll like do a bunch of voices. So that's where Chicago Vampire came from. I couldn't even go
No,
back to it. Like
couldn't,
that's my
couldn't
other
even get back to it.
also, and this is the other thing, like here was the proof that I was sick, right? I was feeling good enough on Tuesday night to join in on Dale's stream on Lost Soul Limit. She tried to play Chippendale Rescue Rangers with with minimal success, and then I came in while she had like half an hour left and just blew through the game. And then after
Nice.
that, I literally collapsed. Like that was an like I expelled too much energy doing that.
Oh, man. So I guess that's why you didn't check in on my stream this week then.
No, I tried to, and then I was scared. You were like trying to like hunt birds to make them your beautiful wives. I didn't know what was happening.
I
I was
know.
afraid it was fever dreams again.
Well, I found an amazing discovery this past week. PS Plus member. I don't know. Do we have full disclosure about that? Like, so I'm about to gush about PS Plus, but I've been using it since it came out. So I'm a sucker. Um, they have buried like free games every now and then in the store. Like if you just happen to be wandering around the store and it's not advertised as one of their monthly free games or anything, it's just every now and then you come across one. Or not. Last night I found a game that's normally like $20 and it's just on sale for $1 for PS Plus members right now. Like nothing, no reason, right? It's not advertised on the front page or anything. So like I always kind of wander through the store whenever I'm bored just to make sure that I'm not missing out on anything. Well, sure enough, I came across one of these free classics, and it is the game Hatoful Boyfriend. Um, Anybody that listens to Super Kenshi, there's an entire like 20-minute episode, 20 minutes of an episode dedicated to me talking about the insanity of Hatoful Boyfriend. But let's just say this: it's a dating sim, but it's a satirical one. They tweak the formula to just turn it into the most ridiculous story. And I think it's actually super interesting now playing it after it's been like out for like 5 years because it started as like a flash game and then it was like so popular that it somehow made its way to the PlayStation Store. And like it's the important thing about it is it has cemented one of the stupidest things we've ever created, but it has cemented it in history, and that is the dating sim flash game. It is like such a huge like part of the video game world that we just never focus on because it is so nonsense. But like it's a big thing that like everybody in this world at some point discovers like a free game website, and one of the first things that they find on a free game website is usually dating simulating games. And like So everybody knows what that is. It's like everybody knows what Mario is, just like everybody knows what Sonic is. And it's stupid that that's a thing in this world now. It's like phone gaming. Like it's just everybody's got access to this stupid thing. And this is the game that everybody's basically going to get to point to from here on out and be like, remember dating sims? That Hatoful Boyfriend one's available on this system because apparently they're just going to keep bringing it to every new system.
Well, there's that, and then there's also probably that one where like you're a hot single father trying to pick up other hot single fathers. I have not played it. I just see your brother talks about it all the time on Twitter. This is what brought it to my attention. And then like that cemented as like a real thing and not just a thing that Zach was like obsessed with when
Hmm?
Honest Game Trailers did an Honest Game trailer for it. So I'm like, so this is a thing that's happening out there in the
Yep.
world.
Yeah.
I don't know. My dating sim game was High School Romance, which is a Japanese arcade game where it's basically like Pac-Man but you're running through the halls of a high school and you have to collect hearts and give them to girls while avoiding
Yeah.
teachers.
Well, and
But like
like
it's
they're
action platforming.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like doing like an adventure game, right? Like you're going around, you're collecting items or information and trading that information to get different outcomes, right? And like so it's actually the basis for a lot of the way that gaming works. And so what you get with these dating online dating sims is what it is they're these kids that are just teaching themselves to program video games and they're just this is what they're throwing together right now. And like so in a weird way they're kind of like charming as much as I think a lot of them are poorly made and often gross and problematic, like I think that like they're still super charming because they're just like these are the guys that are going to be programming our video games in the future, and this is what they're starting with is they're learning how to write cause and effects into their narratives. How do you program that into the game? What is like how do images work? How do you get text to appear on screen? You know what I mean? Like all of the basics for what they need to be doing, and they're teaching themselves that. And the first thing that they pop out is a dating sim because it's easy and it's something that everybody in the world understands, right?
Right, and it's
So
also
like,
sort of cool because it's like a glimpse into their psyches because they're sort of going through puberty and this is how they like envision dating or
yeah, yeah,
what their I guess utopian ideal of dating is. Like if I
yeah.
raise my charisma high enough, then the blonde will like me.
As long as I keep going to this math class, I'll be smart enough to get this girl I like, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so there's this weird thing where like they've become such an important part of video game culture, despite the fact that they are kind of like the bastard stepchild that nobody wants to talk about, right? And then like it just all leads to eventually being such an important genre in our video gaming that there's now the satirical game out in which it's a dating sim in which you are trying to date pigeons.
So you are trying to date pigeons. I wasn't wrong about
Yeah,
that.
so
Okay.
you're a human girl, and you are what is referred to in the game as a hunter-gatherer. They never say human. They say like much like zombies in The Walking Dead. They're referred to as walkers. We we are, we are hunter-gatherers, and there's like none of them. You're like the only one, right? And you have somehow worked your way into going to this pigeon high school because pigeons have taken over the world. And so it's all about you going to this pigeon high school, just being a teenage girl and trying to live life. But also you're a hunter gatherer, so you have to go and worry about those things sometimes. Because I will say I have played that game to two completions because the stories are 45 minutes to an hour depending on how much you want to get into like talking to people. Um, and I've played it through twice, and both times, neither time has it ended in me dating anybody. I accidentally hooked up two other people, so I lost that one in my first game. And then in my second game, I pissed off the bird higher ups, and they sent ninja pigeons to kill me in my sleep. So I died in my sleep.
Did you die in your sleep or did you wake up and see the ninja pigeons and then
No,
die?
we never saw the ninja pigeons. I believe it was that I heard ninja pigeons. I called out that they were ninjas, but then nothing happened, and then I went to bed and never woke up. So I imagine that the ninjas came and got me.
Oh,
The
okay, yeah. You identify ninjas and then like, bedtime.
ninja. I
Fool.
mean, this is
Foolish
also
hunter
after
gatherer.
this is after a day of literally chasing tails. So yeah, I went right to bed. Um, Yeah, man. So, so yeah, so I've been talking about doing Destiny on the stream for, a few weeks, and I'm sure enough, when Destiny first came out last week, it's all I did, right? And so this time around, I was just like, oh, now I have Hatoful Boyfriend, and I can't just experience this on my own. So I decided to throw that out to the world. So anybody that wants to, you can go check out Lost Soul Limits Twitch TV, and I believe I named the video Siege versus the World versus his Hatoful Destiny. So there you go.
It was disappointing a little bit because I saw Destiny, so I'm like, oh, it's gonna be, and I'm like, what is happening? I'm scared. I don't know what's
I
happening.
eventually, I eventually got back over to Destiny, and I did, did my duty over there. Took care of killing some dregs and planting some beacons.
Oh, you mean the day-to-day life of a Destiny character? Uh, Killing dregs and planting boasters. Uh,
That's all I do, man.
so I misspoke earlier when I said that the high school romance game was my first dating sim. The first dating sim I ever played, Harvest Moon, which is like not really a dating sim, but like it was like this big deal. Like everybody talked about how like you could get married in the game and your decisions and who you talk to is what influenced that. And I like 100% played that game with the intention to wed the toolmaker's daughter Annie. Like I remember her name. And that's just truth. That's just my truth being shared. Because you shared your truth about trying to hook up with pigeons and then getting killed by their ninjas.
I mean, the Harvest Moon was a great one. Animal Crossing is also in that same vein. I think Harvest Moon goes a little deeper because of the whole relationships with like the characters and stuff like that. But like, yeah, man, we were actually as I was looking for games last and found Hatoful Boyfriend. One of the ones that we came across was Stardew Valley. So definitely, I want to also recommend that one because if you want to see like a good version of Harvest Moon nowadays, like Stardew is it.
Is that the one that's
Um,
only $1?
No,
Because
the
that'd
one that
be
was only a
awesome.
dollar was hey, might as well do this. Okay, so this game called The Bridge came out a month or so back, and right now it's a dollar something on PlayStation. And I recommend it. Did you ever play Braid, Devon?
No, I did not play Braid.
Okay,
But I
it,
know
it,
what
it is
Braid's about.
it's
It's Prince
very
of
much
Persia.
it's very much in that vein. It doesn't depend on the time mechanic, but what it does is it takes simple mechanics and like blows them up to a crazy, to crazy puzzles. But also the way in which it tells a story is very Braid like. The artwork is very Braid like. It's very clear that the bridge would not exist had Braid not been a thing 10 years ago. So like it's in that wheelhouse. But that being said, it's rather simple mechanic of just being able to turn the rotation of the screen. The like you can orient the screen, right? Just by doing that, they're able to generate hundreds of puzzles that are super interesting and they get really difficult after a while. So that was the one that I grabbed to do that because, man, puzzle games for like an hour. I'll probably play a little bit of it on the stream this week before I get back into Destiny.
That's exciting. That's something to look forward to. Lost
Yeah.
Soul Limit. It's twitch.tv/Lost Soul Limit. And since we're talking
Um.
about video games,
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Yeah. Yeah.
you'll indulge me,
Yeah. Let's do it.
Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite comes out this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sort of excited about it. And then I went and played the demo. And I will not be getting Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite this week.
What happened? What's going on?
So the demo's odd. Um, it's story mode, which seems like a weird thing to do.
Well, yeah.
Like,
Why not just
here's the
make it
story of the game, BTW. Like, why
so
not
the
just make it
entire?
versus, right? Like, that's what usual fighting game demos are.
But it's not like the
Is
whole story, right? It's just like a couple of chapters or something, or like,
I've honestly skipped all the story cutscenes because you have that ability, and I'm
mhm.
like, well, I'm not gonna watch the story if I'm gonna buy the game in a week. That
Oh,
seems
but
ridiculous.
you've seen multiple scenes at least.
But dude, like every fight, like before and after every fight, there is a cutscene that I need to hit start and then hit R1 in order to skip.
Jesus,
So
I
like
can't. So they just put the entire story mode out
they
as their
basically put
demo?
out the entire story mode as the demo, like to the fact that you fight the final boss. I'm pretty sure that it's coded so you can't win because like he takes no damage from your characters. Like I hit with one of my super combos and it did like nothing to him. So it's like, oh, this is fun, right? So what I want to do is, oh, you want to beat the game? Pay us $60.
Mm.
You want to see like the good ending? Pay us $60.
Oh, gross.
So like in addition to the like that negative marketing, right? Like that's not how you demo a game, right? Give me
Right.
4 characters in a like truncated versus mode, and I'll play that forever. Like King of Fighters 15 or it was 14. King of Fighters 14, they released a demo mode that literally gave you it's either 3 or 4 characters. Like you had nothing in terms of that. And we
Yeah.
played that for 2 hours. We played the demo for that game for 2 hours. We like were able to put together a tournament with just those 4 characters that they gave you. And had nothing but fun. And from the fun that we had with just those, we went out and bought the game. Like it made me want to do it. And then like, oh, there's this cool story mode that I didn't even care about. I just cared about how good the fighting felt when I was playing against Dale and like Zach Dyer came over for it.
Do
And
you think do you think that they put this story mode thing out as a way to kind of counter what happened with because Capcom's still having some issues with what happened with Street Fighter, right? Where like they promised a story mode, then it never came out, and then when it finally did, it was super lackluster, right? Like Street Fighter 5 had a huge problem with its story mode. So I wonder if this is a gross overreaction to that of like get the story mode out and get it out now and like everybody gets it for
let people
free.
know that there's a story mode. Let people
And
know
then
that it exists.
yeah,
And like they're locked into playing as the characters we tell them they have to play as. Where in the original, in the next one, maybe you'll get to choose, but maybe not. Like it's real odd. Like I don't want to fight against Ultron Sigma as Thor and Spencer. Do you even know who Spencer is, Sejohn?
no.
As the Bionic Commander's real name. Bionic
Oh my
Commando.
God.
His name's
I was trying to think.
Spencer.
I was like, at first I thought you meant somebody from the Resident Evil series. I was like, did they get one of the Spencer family in there? That'd be super weird.
That'd be super
Oh
weird. No,
man,
you play as Chris Redfield for one fight.
that's good.
And he's
I mean,
teamed
that's
up with
other
Rocket Raccoon.
that's amazing. I want
Yeah.
to see that. I just
Like,
want to see that story.
and that's the thing. And like, so that's, but also the fighting mechanics, it's not Street Fighter, right? Marvel
Okay.
vs. Capcom has never been Street
No,
Fighter.
right.
And like, we're fully okay with that. Like, well, I mean, the first Marvel vs. Capcom was. It was still 6 buttons. But then Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came along with its 56 character roster and decided we're going to change the game.
Right.
And I'm fine with that, right? Tekken was big at the time, so it's sort of Tekken driven, the way that the attacks work, and I'm all right with that. I really am. But this one, you know, it does have that. It's better than Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which was a light attack, a heavy attack, a jump, and a kick. Right? Like I love that for Soul Calibur, but I don't want that in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah.
It just it doesn't work for that game. So
Okay.
it's back to 2 punches, a light and heavy punch, and a light and heavy kick, and
Nice.
that's fine. But if you hit the light attack button and you're able to keep connecting, any character can do an 8-hit combo just by you mashing light attack. Like that's
Yeah.
not fun. Like
It is a pretty. I don't know, man. Like I agree, it's not fun, but it's one of those things where I feel like Marvel versus Capcom has always kind of been in that wheelhouse of you can mash buttons and win this game. Honestly, just because it always felt because it was the one that was being marketed towards people, not the fighting community. You know what I mean? Like Capcom puts a fighting game out, like Street Fighter, or you know any of theirs, and it's like okay, that's not for everybody. So that's why it's much more technical, right? Whereas they just don't make them as technical. I think when they're making them with Marvel included, or even I felt the same way with I felt the first way with the same Injustice when the guys making Mortal Kombat were making that. But then when the second one came around, that was super technical, I felt like. So I was like, all right, that felt like it was more for fighting game people. So I don't know, man. Maybe
right, and I guess that's what I was expecting because it feels like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is a response to Injustice 2. So I thought like maybe it's going to be a little bit deeper,
yeah,
and
okay.
and it's also supposed to be fan service, right? And the fact that like all of the X-Men are gone, all the Fantastic Four are gone because Marvel can't use them in their movies. So they're using only characters that they own who will be appearing in movies now. And like you feel it. Like it feels like there's an emptiness in the game.
Do they not have the right to do them in the video game, or are they just choosing not to do
They're
them in the video
choosing
game?
not to.
That's gross. Well, no, maybe. I mean, it sucks if this is what ends up happening, but maybe what they're doing is holding off on doing like download packs for those dudes in
I
the
mean, it
future.
is all of the download characters I believe have been revealed through data mining because it's also Capcom. So like
Oh,
all of these characters basically exist and we're holding them back for you to get extra money. Like the whole thing is just it's indicative of where video games have gone. When you look at Marvel vs. Capcom 2, that had that huge roster of characters, and yes, some of them were joke characters like Servbot, but now you like you barely have a roster. To play as Sigma, you have to pre-order it. Like it's just here's video gaming now. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And I don't know. And then like the demo after you've played through the whole story has like a commercial on like if you pre-order now, you'll get all this. And it's like, well, why would I pre-order it? Like what did you just show me that makes me want to pre-order it?
yeah.
And I know that's me and I know that it's just me speaking, but I don't know, it kind of bums me out. It just bums me
No,
out. And
man.
we talk about video
Like
games a lot here,
Capcom.
so
Capcom, so like the last really good like big fighting game that they put out was Street Fighter 4. It ended up doing really super well, right? But there was a lot of weird issues with Street Fighter 4 in the way that like they put out like 9 different versions of that game, and like anybody that wanted to keep playing it and be up to date because it is a fighting game, and 90% of the point is to go online and fight other people. It meant that you had to invest hundreds of dollars into this game every time they released a new version of it because you wanted to get all your stuff to go over, right? So like they even that had its problems is what I'm saying. So like they've been kind of stumbling all along with this stuff, and so I guess I'm not surprised to find that there's so many there's a bad taste in your mouth after seeing what they're doing with this one because they can't seem to get it right now, and I think that's true across the board for Capcom. I mean, like they haven't been able to really get Resident Evil back on its feet, right? I guess that was Konami more than Capcom now, but it's I don't
how is
know, it's
that
weird.
Konami? Resident Evil is still a Capcom game.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were still working with what's his name, but because of all of that weird shakeup
No,
years
that's
ago.
Silent Hill, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, nice.
Those are
Yes.
two separate games. Silent Hill is Konami's Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Put that in your head if you're not a gamer and listen to this show and try to make sense of it. But yeah, it's just
Um.
and no, and like in
Yeah.
Capcom's big reveal, like that for the Switch, they're coming out with Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 in a pack, and it's like, why? We already played this on 3DS, and now you're
Well,
bringing it to
no,
Switch, and
we didn't play this because we didn't want to play this. So why are you putting it back out?
yeah, I guess that's it too. I don't know. I don't know. Capcom, it does
Yeah.
seem like they're stumbling, and they were like of the third party publishers, they have always been my favorite. And I just thought that like Marvel vs. Capcom is so easy, right? You're settling the score between like who would win between Captain America and Mega Man,
I
right?
mean,
Like
yeah, and they did really well with the last one. I mean, I don't think that they did anything too innovative the last time around, but I mean, like the marketing for it alone was hilarious. Having Deadpool be like kind of the face of what they were doing and showing how he like used the video game world around him to like win fights was the perfect amalgamation of the two, right? Like Capcom versus Marvel. So they did really well on this when they what was it like 10 years ago when the last one came out?
it came out in 2011, so
Okay,
six, but
6.
still, yeah. Yeah, no, you're
Yeah,
right.
man.
You're not wrong. That's a
So
very good
like
point. And Deadpool not in the game because Deadpool is not owned by Marvel.
yeah,
So
because now he's the
we don't
Fox
want to
stuff.
give
So
Fox any free advertising with this video game.
mm,
So it's just weird all around. And I just hope that like playing it would I don't know, like I don't want to believe in like nostalgia and all of that, but like Marvel versus Capcom games were my childhood. Like I
yeah.
got into emulating arcade systems so that I could play those games specifically. And I have dumped tons of time and energy into learning the Marvel vs. Capcom games. And you're right, 3 came along and it felt like, oh, this is a worthy successor. We cut down from 56 characters, but that's fine, because 56 characters was ridiculous. Right? Like, there's too
Yeah,
many
yeah.
characters. So we're back down to like a reasonable number. Like it was like 20, maybe 24 characters. And then they even tried the like Street Fighter thing there, where they eventually released Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom, which it was not just Ultimate Marvel characters. So a little weird and like the cross promotion thing, but call it Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate. There you go. There you go. Right? Just move the Ultimate to the end. Um,
Making promises with your titling that you didn't mean to make.
what do you mean Miles Morales is in Spider-Man? Oh yeah, Spider-Man not in the game as well. Because it's just like, and like those were the characters. And no Hulk, but because I think the Hulk might actually be in it because we don't give a damn about Universal. Take that, Universal. Make your own Hulk movie if you want. I don't know. It just, I was hoping that my nostalgia would drive it forward, but like it doesn't feel like it because it's not like fun and cartoony. It's like that grim dark that Injustice like lives in. So like I'm like, all right, well if it's gonna be like Injustice 2, that'll be great. And then it's like, oh, if you hit triangle and circle together, you'll do an easy hyper combo. And I'm like, why? Like that's not for me, right? Like
Yeah.
that's so that like people just mashing on buttons will do it, and it's like, and that will make it less fun for me. I don't know. Let's move on to something else. What else you got?
Yes. Oh, I got nothing else for you, man. Oh, that's not true. I did do one thing this week. I decided to finally get out to the movies and see a movie that you've been telling me I needed to see. So
Oh
I
no!
wanted to
Yay!
surprise you because I finally got out and I finally saw the really important film this year. I went to the Emoji Movie.
Yay!
Had a night to go out to the cinema, and I decided to pick a classic film, and
I
this
was
is
kind
where
of
I
hoping you were
landed.
gonna say Atomic Blonde, but yeah,
I
Emoji
know,
Movie.
I know.
I saw him the same day. That's okay.
Oh man, yeah, I went to go check out the Emoji Movie this week, and man, like that movie. It really, really blew my mind because, like, I always talk about how there are films out there that are always better than they needed to be or have any right to be. But that movie is on a level, man. Like, there's no reason why that movie should exist, and there's no reason why that movie should be as, like, heartwarming and charming as it is. Like, that movie is something else.
Yep, that's the kind of movie where Dale and I walk out of it as the only people who are at a viewing of the Emoji
Yep,
Movie.
yep. Me and my girlfriend were the only ones there. Yep.
Yeah, but the difference being, Sejohn, Dale and I saw it at 9:15 the weekend that it came out.
Yeah.
Like nobody's
I mean,
here.
it did okay. Like we should mention that that
Oh,
money wise,
yeah, money
Emoji Movie
wise,
did
it's fine,
fine.
and that's it. And it was also because like they were starved for kids movies when it came out, but
hmm
but also like it's like who was that movie for? Why is
hmm
that movie so like in? It's such a deep film.
Yeah, it is stupidly deep. Like so the whole, I mean the entire point. It's been out for months now, so
Yeah,
I
we
don't
could
feel bad
talk about
spoiling it. But,
spoilers for the Emoji Movie. It caught up
um,
with real life for whatever bullshit reason I gave for spoilers being okay before.
no. So like the whole concept of not feeling just one thing and about how you can't just like limit yourself and labels and all of this sort of stuff is like like a pretty good like kids movie concept. And then the way that they just explore that and the idea that we have, because it's not just that, it's the idea that it's also commenting on the fact that we have kind of limited ourselves in the way that we text each other and about how that doesn't exist. Like it's such a weird, deep thought. Like not only is it just, hey, everybody's, feels many different things, which is a great kids moral, but on top of that, it's like also we've kind of put ourselves in this weird position with the technology we use every day where we can't express ourselves anymore. And it's just like, okay, all right, this is starting to be like social commentary on a level I wasn't expecting. Yeah, man, it just it the way that it handles all of the different representations of things too is also really cool. Like, what was the one that you said you and Dale actually kind of had a little bit of an issue with? Because I remember there was one that you said that it didn't really click for you guys.
I don't know where they got the canoe in Spotify. Like, if I'm going to
Oh,
talk about, like,
where they got the
where'd they
canoe?
get the
Yeah.
canoe? Where'd that
Yeah,
come
that's a
from?
little weird.
And
Yeah, man.
also, why would music streams connect you to locations on the phone. Like that didn't make sense to me. Spotify is really like, okay, so we got Spotify giving us like
No,
$1 million
no.
for us to
I'll
use
tell
their
you
app in
why.
this
No,
movie.
I'll tell you why. Because anybody that has Spotify on your computer knows damn well that little son of a bitch application never shuts the fuck down. It is constantly running in the background of everything. No matter what you do, Spotify is there watching and connecting to what you're doing. And you say, hey, Spotify, I don't want you on right now. And it's like, oh, okay, bye. And it disappears. And then you look down a few minutes later and you realize, hey, it just minimized. It didn't actually disappear. And then you hit quit Spotify and it's like, okay. And then you find out a moment later, oh, it asked if I was sure I wanted to quit Spotify and I never hit yes. Like that application is a bitch to quit running.
Oh, okay.
So
So
that's
thank you for explaining that to me. But I still want to know where the hell they got the canoe, Sejohn.
uh, man, yeah. No, it was like I love that one, and I love the representation of dance.
Oh,
Just
the
Dance was
dance
really
dance was
good.
fantastic. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
like they show her half body in the deletion bin, and I just
Hmm.
started crying. Like
Yeah.
that's the
It was.
only
There's some
time Christina
perfect music.
Aguilera is gonna make me cry.
Oh man, second time.
What's the
There's
second time?
that's the second time. The first time was Lady Marmalade all the time.
Oh, Sejan. Jesus. What a
um,
revelation.
I also, the casting. It like there was some intelligent choices made all around because like okay, the joke of getting Sir Patrick Stewart to play the poop emoji is like funny and a good way to market it, right? But also Stephen Wright as his dad, right?
That
Like
was brilliant. Just
was
brilliant.
yeah, right. It was a perfect choice to play this thing, and
And then Maya Rudolph in her like
yes,
villain of kids movie role.
yeah, yeah, that was pretty awesome too. I mean, like, and it's one of those movies where it's obvious, like things that happen are obvious jokes, obvious moments, obvious turns. Like her reveal as the smiley face emoji actually being the villain is like set up from moment one, right? Like, there's no way she's not the villain of this movie. Um, she's creepy from the first second she shows up. So like that, it's in that way, it's kind of like very kids movie esque, but also it's super satisfying in the way all that stuff ends up playing out. Like the way that stuff is revealed was at least worth watching, you know?
Yeah.
Also, I couldn't quite tell if it was James Corden or not playing High
High
Five.
five.
So I spent the entire movie just being like, I hope this is James Corden, like verbally out loud to my girlfriend, being like, if this is not James Corden, I'm gonna actually be upset. Like, and then some like stuff goes down, and I'm like, all right, possible James Corden is the best. And then sure enough, it was him. So I was very excited that way.
Our playing of that same game was with the hacker emoji.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
like, who is this? Who is this? Is it this one? No, it can't be that one. Like out loud in the theater the whole time, and then
Yeah.
like the reveal where like she's actually the original princess emoji. I'm like, it's Anna Faris. It's
Yep.
definitely Anna Faris.
Yeah, well, and I mean even that, right? Because the second that they show a smiley face out of the phone, and earlier they made such a point to mention that one of the princesses had escaped. Like again, it's such a simple setup. You're just like, oh, okay, so that's clearly going to end up being her. But the way that they go through that and deal with that and reveal her whole story is awesome. Like,
And again, the thing that like really, because you have all these other things of like, don't let labels define you. You don't have to be just one thing. But then what really works for me in terms of the entire scope of a kids movie like lesson is when she actually leans into the fact that she can call birds and
mhm,
animals, because
mhm.
it's like you don't want to be defined by one thing, but like you shouldn't be ashamed of the things that are. Even if people make fun of them, it's part of who you are.
Yeah, it's like other people can't label you, but like don't be afraid of the labels in your own head, right?
Yeah.
Like there's
Like
yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on. It's complex in a way that like is not clean, is not perfect, but at the end of the day is again better than it had any right to be for the Emoji Movie.
and people hated it.
Mm,
Just because like they didn't see it too. Like that's I don't know, that's something that we discuss a lot here at the Say Report is the fact that a lot of people have these assumptions about what things are going to be, and then they just judge based on that assumption.
Yeah.
Like, people
Yeah.
saw the Emoji Movie, they're like, what an obvious fucking cash-in. I'm going to compare it to Inside Out for some reason. Because where does that make sense? How do you look at Inside Out, a movie about your emotions, like, into your body, applied to, like, the emoticons in your phone?
Yeah,
Can you, like,
it's a
do that
loose
for me?
connection.
Like,
No, it's a really loose connection. I mean, it's just the idea of talking about the idea of like emotions and states and feelings. And like I get that on the surface, but at the end of the day, they're two very different films for what they're trying to do, right?
well, it's two
Like,
very different concepts. I mean, the
yeah,
emotions that are inside of you are 1,000% different than the emotions that can be represented by your phone.
exactly. Right. Yeah, man. All right. But yeah, that's what I did this week
Well, I'm
for
very happy
my
that you saw the Emoji Movie, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it in like that exact way I figured you would.
hmm
And this is going to bring up a question for me, just a yes or no. Did you
Okay.
ever see Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return?
I have.
Okay, I figured you would have. Did you
hmm
like that movie?
It was all right. I wish it had animated better. I think actually, legitimately, that my biggest issue with that particular movie is that it didn't have enough money behind it to be the kind of beautiful film it probably needed to be. Because I think if it looked better, people would have been talking about it a lot more
Yeah, because the
than what happened.
story is awesome. Like,
hmm
we watched Smokey and the Bandit 2 yesterday,
Yeah.
Dale and I, after watching Magnolia, which, have you seen Magnolia?
Why that double feature?
Uh,
Yes.
because we said we're going to watch a long movie of the movies we have in our DVR and a short movie.
Nice.
And then, like, very strangely, those two are super thematically similar.
Oh God.
Uh,
What does this
it's
have to
not.
do with
What?
what does this have to do with Dorothy and Oz?
Oh, because then when we stopped Smokey and the Bandit, we had on one of the movie channels, and that movie was on, right? And it was
hmm
right before
That's the one
Marshall
we're talking about. The one with Martin Short
as the
as the
jester.
jester.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes, I haven't. Yeah, I've
yeah,
seen
of
that
course
one.
you've seen it. I figured you would have. I would be surprised if you hadn't. And this was just going to be a yes or no, but now it's turned into a discussion. And it was the scene where Marshall Mello,
hmm
the
Played
marshmallow,
by Hugh Dancy, I believe.
yes, it is shoe dancing. Nice job. Um, is putting together the China Princess,
Oh
and he
God,
sings
yep.
that song, and like broke Dale and I
hmm
because that song is fucking crazy. Like, it's this beautiful moment. Megan Hilty, like, remember Megan Hilty? Probably not. Do you know something that
No,
Megan Hilty was in?
no.
No, you don't. Smash. She was in the NBC show Smash, which I would love to use as a segue into the last thing we're going to be talking about, but I have more Legends of Oz thing. Yeah, it broke us. And then, like,
Yeah,
Dale and I were like, we saw this in theaters, but, like, nobody talks about this movie that, like, again, is way better than it has any right to be
yeah.
based upon just how shoddily animated it is.
Yeah, I really do think that's the biggest downfall is that they wanted to probably get it out. They realized they were running out of money, and rather than clean it up, they rushed it out and like just hope for the best, and that's such a shame.
To be fair, they were running out of money because they have Jim Belushi as the Cowardly Lion in two scenes.
Yeah, for like two scenes, right?
And
Like
it's like
they did that with with a lot of those
Kelsey
older
Grammer and Dan
characters.
Aykroyd are in that movie as well for two scenes. And
Yeah,
it's like, that's fun, right? But then you have Hugh Dancy, which is awesome as the marshmallow guy. You have
much
Megan
more in your
Hilty
pay
as the
area.
China princess, and it's
Yeah.
just like, well, these ones make sense. But then you did stunt casting and cameo roles that like are kind of there. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's such a weird moment for me because like
hmm
you see them and it's like, oh, this is going to be great, right? You got Dan Aykroyd, you got Kelsey Grammer, Jim Belushi. I mean, like, if I want a Belushi in this movie, and we all know what happened,
Just
right? It's a shame. It's a
oh
shame it
my
can't
God.
be John. But
I
when in
want a
doubt,
Belushi in this film though. Like this film needs a
this
Belushi
film.
for
Oh my
sure.
God! Could you imagine Dan Aykroyd as the Scarecrow and John Belushi as the Cowardly Lion?
That
The
would be
Blues
amazing.
Brothers in the Land of Oz, and it'd be amazing.
Oh God.
Anywho,
So,
check it out if you get the chance. It's worth a watch. Is what I'm basically trying to say.
yes, for sure.
Um,
All right, man.
so
So, Worth a
To
watch? Can we do something with that? Can that be our segue?
Yeah, so speaking of worth a watch, we are exactly 6 days away from new episodes of DuckTales, which means we're
Woohoo!
exactly 8 days away from the fall TV season and all of the
Yeah,
new
man.
things that are going to be coming to your TV sets to burn your retinas. And we thought that we'd like have a brief discussion about what those shows are and if we have any interest in them. So
Yeah,
Sejohn, I believe you have a beautiful list up on your
I
computer.
do. Here's the thing. I don't know what to skip and what to talk about because some of this stuff just looks ridiculous. So right off the bat, we've got a show, and I'm only talking about it because of its title, which is, I think, horrible, called 9JKL.
Oh, 9JKL? Stupid. Frickin' stupid. The dumbest title ever. This will
And do you know
air
why it's called this?
because it's about the brief time in the comedian's life when he lived in apartment 9J, his parents lived in apartment 9K, and his sister lived in apartment 9L. And it's about him trying to define the boundaries while trying to live his own life.
Yeah, right. So 9JKL, what are you doing? This is a CBS comedy.
It's
For,
mid season though, right? Like it's not, or is this? Oh no, this is eight
nope,
thirty, right?
this is an October 2nd, 8:30. Like this is a Monday night comedy for them.
It's going to have exactly one episode air, maybe two, because the first episode will have people like who tune in to be like, "What the hell is 9JKL?"
Hmm.
And then it's going to air a second episode that nobody but I watch because for some stupid reason I'm going to like get attached to this show, and then they're going to replace it with fucking reruns of The Big Bang Theory
You know
because
what?
it's
I mean,
CBS.
I'm gonna make a wild swing here, and I bet you they rebrand it. I bet you it makes it about 6 episodes under 9JKL, but they realize that it's a terrible name and they rebrand it after the midseason.
Hey, Sejohn, while you're in 1997, could you pick me up an original PlayStation? Because they don't
I know.
rebrand shows anymore, man. They just
They
delete them from
nah.
existence.
Netflix did it. I'm just saying.
That's
Netflix did it.
That's not CBS.
I know.
Like,
I
look,
know.
I mean, look at your
I
little
said it was
list.
a wild swing, man. Believe
Oh,
me. I get
dude,
it.
I'll be all about it. You know what? And honestly, 9JKL, my bet for you is 2 episodes before you get canceled. I don't even think you're going to get to the Judging Alex 3 episodes.
Whew.
And that's saying something, right? Like even Sejohn was like, "Wow, did he just bring up Judging Alex?" Yeah.
Jeez, it was like slam. All right, but yeah, enough about that nonsense. Let's talk about one that I'm actually kind of excited about. There's a couple here in front of me, but we're gonna talk about Alex Inc. first.
Oh, cool. That
Um,
other show that I'm not interested in, and that I don't
really?
think will. I think it will get through a whole season because it has Zach Braff attached as the star. But come on, Sejohn. TV shows based on podcasts, I
Okay,
do not
so
think that's
looking at it
going to
from that
become
angle,
a thing.
yes. No, no, you're not wrong. You're like from that angle, yes. But I bet you. Okay, so here's why I think it actually might do well. I mean, we're talking about Zach Braff back on television, and he is behind it creatively as well this time, which means that there's going to be a lot going on that way.
There's going to be a
So
lot of bands you never heard of doing the soundtrack.
this is a well, you haven't heard of now, but in 10 years, it's going to be like
It's going to be in
yeah,
every car
yeah, it's
commercial.
going to be every freaking indie film, and you're going to hate them. But so I think that you're gonna get something with that. You're gonna get some traction because of the Zach Braff stuff. Now you may be right; it may be only a one season thing, but I think what happens is they actually start to kind of push away from the podcasting thing. Like, I know that there's like a lot of jokes about how Bob's Burgers in its later seasons stopped doing less about the restaurant, but like that's just the way that happens with shows. But I'm talking about like a hard turn off of the podcasting stuff with Alex Inc. I bet you after a while that becomes just like a bookend to the show. But other than that, it's never about that.
Oh, well, I don't think it's going to be about the podcasting at all. I'm just talking about the fact
The
that it's based on a
preview,
podcast. Oh, does it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He
The
podcasts in the preview?
really seemed to lean into the whole podcasting thing. But again, I think that they turn away from that real
Oh,
quick.
yeah, they have to. Like, it has to be like,
Yeah,
that's the pilot. The pilot
yeah,
is him
yeah.
doing the podcast. And then if you're smart about it, it's him having these adventures that he then goes back and talks about on his podcast. Right? Like, that's
Yeah,
how
yeah,
you
yeah.
do it. And you're right. Like,
Right.
you bookend it with him, like, recording. Like, so it becomes like the Seinfeldian opening.
Okay,
But it's
here
not
we
a show
go.
that, like, I read that. That's mid season, right? Or is that Like, I feel like when I
Yes,
was looking
yes,
through the
Alex Inc.
fall
is mid-season.
shows, most of them looked like mid-season replacements.
Yeah,
And that's the reason why a show like Alex Inc. It has freaking Zach Braff. How do you not come out of the gate with that?
yeah.
Like, it seems like, so why is this like a backup plan?
Well, I think what they've done is they've really turned the mid-season premiere thing, and it's kind of always been this way. They're just more obvious about it now. But the mid-season premiere thing is just an opportunity for them to give a show that they actually do kind of like have faith in. It gives them 13 episodes essentially. Like if something premieres mid-season, you can almost guarantee that it's at least going to make it to the end of the season because
Yeah,
it's filler show at
unless
that
it
point.
has nothing, unless it has
Unless it's got
zero
right,
viewers.
right, because it's already coming into a slot that they're considered damaged, so like it doesn't have to do great in order to survive to the end of the season. Now it might not get renewed, so maybe what we'll see from Alex Inc. is just a good like 13 episode thing that will be on Hulu for the rest of our lives, and we'll talk about how sad it is there's no season two. But like there's been a couple of really good ones that have pulled out of that mid season premiere and become really substantial shows. I mean, wasn't Superstore that? I mean, I
Superstore
know.
was a mid-season filler,
Yeah,
and it had eight
Real
episodes. It was great.
Real O'Neill's was and that was big when it just couldn't evolve beyond that 13 episode, but it picked up steam in that at least that first season. So like we've seen that become something important over the last couple of years. So like it seems
I
like
mean,
they're really
Undateable was a summer show that then became a
right.
huge phenomenon, and then they killed themselves by going live every episode.
Yeah.
That was a weird
Speaking of
idea.
mid-season premieres, and this is
Oh, that
another
was
one
a
that's
good
actually
segue.
yeah, and this is actually not unusual for these guys either. CW's Black Lightning is going to be a mid-season premiere this year.
CW's Black Lightning looks like the first CW DC show that I'm actually interested in.
All right. I mean, I'm glad to hear that. It does look really, really awesome. And we can talk about CW and their DC universe for days, but I'm super excited for this one. And the mid-season premiere is exactly what they did with Legends, and that worked out great for them
Yeah,
because they
Legends
were
was
able
good too. I
to.
watched Legends. I'm a liar.
Yeah,
I'm a liar.
but
I
they were.
watched Legends.
But what happened with Legends is, the first 13 episodes were fun and people watched them. Again, it was a mid-season premiere, so it didn't have to do stellar, but they wanted it to become a much bigger, better show. So what they were able to do with that 13 episode arc was retool the show, and it's a completely different show in season two. Like they dropped three major cast members from the first season when they went into the second one. So like that 13 episodes gave them the opportunity to tell some really fun stories, but also gave them the opportunity to tweak it for the next year and see what it is that they needed to do to really get a good audience. And so like I think this is going to
pull a
be.
Zach Morris timeout here?
Mm-hmm.
What three characters did they drop?
So, spoiler alert, I guess, but Rip Hunter's not in the next season. Hawkgirl is not in the next season, and Leonard Snart goes out gloriously in season one.
Well, that's a shame because I really liked Leonard, but I'm
Oh
really
yeah,
happy to hear that Hawkgirl is gone because
yeah.
they
No,
had
Hawkgirl's not.
no idea what to do with her, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a real shame.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
real
Hawkgirl
shame.
doesn't. Yeah, Hawkgirl does not make it, but they bring on a lot of other characters that are really awesome in the next season. But and Rip's story is great, but it's really good for that 13 episodes, and then his story ends, and like they hit a point where like no, it totally doesn't make sense for him to continue on this. So like it is a really good story for Rip, and I'm glad that they didn't overuse him. But yeah, and then Leonard, like it's one of the it's the first Joss Whedon-y death, I think, in the universe. It's like he goes out in such a glorious way, and you
Oh, please
hate
stop
it because
talking
he's such
about
a
it because I'm gonna watch it now.
yeah, do it up.
I'm gonna blank it from my memory. But second time out, if we're gonna talk about things that I miss from Super Kenshi, it was Chell's doing recaps of Legends
Yeah.
of Tomorrow because
Yeah.
that was like one of the greatest segments you guys had.
Yeah, yeah.
She
And
didn't
it's
know nothing about nothing.
it
And
was
it was so much fun.
yeah. It's one of the saddest things that we may have to develop some way to get something like that back, because especially with other stuff starting now. But yeah, so the mid-season premiere thing has worked out really well for CW in that case with that one. And if this is what they keep doing for these like superhero shows to see what kind of works, is like throw something out there, because we're gonna hit a point soon where Arrow is not going to be on the air anymore, and even maybe possibly Flash, because they've been on the air for Arrow's going into its 8th season now.
Oh my god! I thought it just was going into its 6th.
No, it just did its 6th. I don't know. My numbers
That'd be
are
the
all screwed up.
7th season.
But see, but anyway, yeah. So I mean, we're talking about like 5 seasons is kind of like a great story, and they've done that essentially, right? So they're moving on into some stuff that will probably be good, but after a while, like even as a fan, I'm not going to want them to outstay their welcome. Now that being said, we are talking about the CW, who has had Supernatural on the air for what, 13 seasons now?
Yeah, they're going into 14, right? Which is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. But like, if they're smart, what they do is they back off of Arrow and then give that slot to a new show. Maybe that's where Flash picks up and that becomes like their big like tent pole. Because I know Arrow is like the backbone of the whole thing, but still, I don't know, man. Like I'm excited to see what they do next, but right now,
Yes.
Black Lightning is going to be a really good one to check out. But again, mid season. Um, the next one that I'm looking at here that I have anything to say about is By the Book, which is the one being based on the year of living biblically.
All right, I'm just
Man,
gonna say next.
yeah. Well, but again, mid season premiere. I don't know. Like, that's exactly my feelings on it. By the way, it's like, yeah, I feel like it's one of those ones that needs to be mentioned because it's gonna do something. But I'm not excited to see what it does.
Well, you know what? You know
Um,
what? It upsets me about it. I wanted to just say next, but I need to say it. Renaissance Man is one of my favorite movies. And when Renaissance Man did not work when it was marketed as a comedy about the military, they rebranded it and re-released it as a drama called By the Book. And all I was like, "Oh my god, is it going to be a Renaissance Man TV show?" And then no, it's about a guy living by the Bible.
yes,
Next,
that says so much about. Thanks, Devon.
freaking next.
Let's see, what do we got? Man, everything is mid-season. I'm trying to
Everything
find.
is
They're bringing
mid-season. It's crazy.
CW is bringing Dynasty back.
You know what? I want to be excited about it, but like I was hurt with Dallas because
Hmm.
Dallas was friggin' great. Oh my god! Do you know Judith Light, friggin' Angela
Yes.
from
Yeah,
Goddamn
yeah,
Who's the Boss?
yeah.
She showed such a dynamic range of acting in the Dallas remake. Not even a remake. It was like a sequel. Like it was years later with the Dallas characters, and I watched Dallas when I was a kid. So it was like this awesome, like, oh, now all these kids are grown up, and I'm grown up, and I got to
Yeah.
really enjoy it. And Judith Light is now the scariest woman ever. She will never just be friggin' the boss from Who's the Boss, because spoilers, she hired Tony. She's the boss.
Oh man.
But oh, she was
Let's
so good in
see.
that show. Oh, frightening.
I'm excited for Ghosted. Looks like it's going to be a little X-Filey, like spoof that
That's
Adam Scott and
Adam
Craig
Scott
Robinson
and
are doing.
Dallas.
Yeah.
Great. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those shows that I wish it would come into like Netflix or Hulu because I don't know if Fox is going to give it the chance that it deserves. You know what I mean?
I feel like
Yeah,
Fox. I feel like Fox has become a lot more forgiving with its shows.
I hope that's true.
I,
Maybe this is just the old man in me being like,
of all the channels that it could be on, like if it were on ABC or CBS, it would fail right out of the gate. Right? We didn't get the numbers that we expected with having these two stars attached. Goodbye.
yeah,
NBC, they would at least get like a half a season, right? Like 13 episodes. But
right,
Fox, they will give them the whole 22 episodes, whether or not it's performing or not, because they double down on this stuff.
yeah,
Like Making History, as sad as it was that it only went those 9 episodes, that was the intention. Like that was supposed to be a short season, and that's what we
right,
got. Like the fact
yeah,
that Ghosted is coming out of the gate as one of their fall premieres in a landscape that is losing New Girl, right? Like because their final
hmm,
season is going to be like 6, maybe 10 episodes,
right,
like time forwarded to see where everybody landed. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is still going strong, but Fox wants to get away from animation and they want to go back to live action television. And I feel like Ghosted is that beautiful sweet spot that will definitely get an audience, probably get a second season. I mean, like Dale wants to watch it just because Adam Scott's in it. Like,
yeah,
like it,
yeah, man.
it's
I mean,
pulling people
Adam
for.
Scott, yeah, getting Adam Scott and Craig Robinson to be your two leads in it, like you're guaranteeing that it's going to get a good number of viewers right there.
Yeah, eyeballs are going to be on the screen, and I'm excited to watch the show. And I'm not even like really into X Files.
No. All right, so we should talk for a moment about Gifted, just because this is Fox's second go at at an X-Men TV show. On FX last year, they did the miniseries, so it wasn't. I don't think it was meant to go much longer than one series, but they did Legion,
Legion.
which from everything I hear, I haven't checked it out yet. I will when they finally put it on a streaming service. But from what I hear, it was pretty well received. So Gifted looks like their attempt at making a much longer running one of these shows. And I mean, right off the bat, Amy Acker is one of your lead actors in it and stuff like that. Like it seems kind of interesting. My only problem is that it being a Fox Marvel show, it means it's not in the Marvel universe proper. So like I don't know. Like I don't think that Fox has established enough of a universe for me to care about you know what I mean? The outside worlds. Like
Well,
I'm
but
not going to be expecting Deadpool to show up in this show,
and you
right?
shouldn't, because
Like
the big issue with Fox is that there is no like continuity, which is one of the best jokes of Deadpool is which Professor X is it, McAvoy or Stewart, because your timeline is
yeah.
so
Yeah.
confusing, and it's like so. Gifted is going to exist in its own little pocket universe, which is the worst thing because we have all this proof that like Marvel can do it. So I don't know why other people aren't like giving it that same gusto.
Well, and so does this mean that it's not going to be in the same universe as the other X-Men one that they're putting out? It's not X-Men. It's not Hack and Slash. What's the oh, there's another mutant
Cloak
one
and
coming out.
Domino. I mean,
Yeah,
Cloak and
Cloak and
Dagger.
Dagger. Cloak and
No,
Dagger.
Cloak and Dagger is. They're not X Men, are they?
They're mutants, but I don't think that they're X-Men.
I don't think that they're mutants. I think that they're augments.
Oh.
Yeah, they're
All right. Well,
augmented.
we'll have
Their
to look
powers
into
come
it.
from augmentation. So they're
But
that's
anyway,
definitely Marvel Universe proper. That's not a Fox owned thing.
oh, okay. I
That's why
thought that
it's
they were
going
mutants,
to.
so
That's
I
why it's
thought
going
they
to
could.
Freeform, which is an ABC owned network.
Oh, I didn't know ABC still owned it. I thought that that when they lost ABC Family, that it wasn't ABC's anymore. So I just assumed that they were mutants and it was part of the mutant
Oh
universe.
no, they rebranded it. Yeah, and the whole
Well,
thing is
I
that like Cloak and Dagger were, they lived on the street and they got augmentation to get their powers.
well, I'm totally getting into that one then.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing is now because now that I know that that one's like ABC and all of that sort of stuff, and they're not mutants, and so they'll be able to talk about things in a way like I'm super excited about Cloak and Dagger all of a sudden,
I mean,
much more than I am about Gifted.
and I might be wrong, but like those are two characters that I really, really enjoy. And as
Yeah,
far as I know, they are not mutants. As far as I
yeah.
can remember, they're not
Uh,
mutants.
so you weren't interested in the other biblical one, but I wonder if you're interested in this one. Kevin probably saves the world. How do you feel about that one?
I don't even know what that is.
Oh man, I think it actually looks kind of interesting. So Jason Ritter plays the main dude in it, and it's a 1 hour long dramedy series, but I think it's going to be more funny than it is sad about a dude that's like kind of the last guy that you would want to be able to save the world, and apparently gets tasked by God with the mission to save the world, but the entire time you're not sure whether or not he's just like out of his mind and like being played or something. Like he's not sure why God would have chosen him and you're not either, so like the entire time you're not sure if he is supposed to be the one to do it or not. And so like there's this weird element to it where like he's trying to be a better person. It's very My Name Is Earl,
It's
like
also very Distaff counterpart to Joan of Arcadia.
mm. So I mean I'm interested in it for a number of reasons. Jason Ritter, J. August Richards is going to be in it as one of the main characters, and like I love it when that dude gets work. So I'm kind of excited for that. I don't know, like I'm a sucker for the Ritter family,
Yeah, I'm a
right?
sucker.
Like
You said Jason
John
Ritter,
Ritter,
and I was like, I was right
yeah,
on board.
yeah. The
Um,
second like anything John Ritter was ever in, I always loved, and so like Jason Ritter, I'm right behind too. So that'll be cool. And I was just curious if you had heard anything about it because the by the book one does seem like it's such a like just like a kick in the nuts to anybody that reads the Bible. Like it feels like it's got that weird attitude about it for me. Whereas this one feels very much just like yeah, the Bible's part of our story, but it's not like we're pushing this thing. But they're not being disrespectful about that fact. I don't know. It's weird. Like I've got weird feelings about like religious based television, and this one does not give me those weird feelings. So I am excited for this one.
yeah, no, I mean, I'll definitely check it out because it's a Ritter. I mean, as long
Yeah,
as it doesn't air when something else I watch already airs, I'll
it's
probably
going to be
give
a
it a shot.
10 p.m. at night show apparently.
What day?
Tuesday.
Oh, perfect. I'll be able to get that going.
Yeah, like even after It's funny. I was just thinking about biblical-based TV shows. Now that I know some more about Leftovers, I actually am super interested in it. I really wasn't at first when I thought it was like a religious, like apocalyptic story. And now that I know that it's not, I'm actually super interested in it. I never thought about how much of a hang up that is for me before. Um, Inhumans starts this coming week, actually, Friday, September 29th. Um,
That's
I don't
two
know, man.
weeks.
2 weeks. It's a week from Friday, isn't it? No,
It's a week. Yeah,
maybe.
it is a week from Friday. But you said this coming Friday. That
Oh,
made it sound
well,
like
yeah.
the Friday the 22nd, not the 29th.
I mean, I don't know. I'm actually
It's two
not
Fridays.
super. I'm not super excited for Inhumans. Like, I think that they've done such a good job on Shield doing this. I think we talked about this, so I don't know if I'm excited about the show.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, like, I'm excited because Ewan Ryan is in it. Simon from
Um,
Misfits, and then he was in Game of Thrones.
I
I
think the
like him.
Orville's already crashed, right?
Ah, clever, because it's a ship. It's got a second episode airing tomorrow, though. So,
Yeah. I don't
well,
know,
not no.
man.
Sorry, it
There's a lot
aired
about
yesterday.
there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff behind that show that I really do want to support, but if it's just trash. If
Can
it's
I want
just
to
trash, it's
support?
just
Can I want to
trash.
support Seth MacFarlane and Archie from ER? Why can't I think of his name right now?
You
Uh,
talking about Scott
yeah,
Grimes,
Scott
Peter Mac?
Grimes. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Scott Grimes. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
Scott Grimes like working together because I love Scott Grimes is fantastic as Steve Smith. So like to
Mhm.
see him and Seth MacFarlane live and then
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
off of each other, like I already know that they have a good rapport. So I'm excited about that aspect of it. And I
yeah.
freaking love Ted. But like forget the Orville and give me Ted 3 already.
Hmm.
There's plenty of
Yeah, man.
Family Guy jokes that you can rip again and put in live action with Mark Wahlberg and I'll love it.
Yeah, man. I like I I like I said, I really do want to support a lot about that show, but it just doesn't work right now. So they've got to get it on its feet. If they can do that, then I'm all for it. But I don't know if they're going to get that opportunity. Although who knows? Because Seth MacFarlane has made some deal with the devil that he gets to do whatever he wants, and no matter how terrible it is, he gets to do it again. So
Well, yeah, I mean, a million ways to die in the West, like friggin' shit's
nobody
a
should have
brick,
survived that. Yeah,
and then
nobody
like
should
he
have
gets
survived that.
another him as a live action actor
Hmm.
movie is like that just blew my mind. He was really good in Logan Lucky. I will say that I saw Logan Lucky,
Yeah,
and he was like a small role, and like he actually added to it, and it was him and not an animated version that he was voicing. So
nice.
I will give him credit there. But also the Orville, if I want to talk about like the big misstep, I love an hour long comedy. Do not get me wrong. Wedding Band, I think, is one of the greatest comedies in the last 10 years. Nobody saw that show.
Hmm.
But like I remember watching it and my mother being like, this is a really good show, but an hour is too long for comedy. If this were a half-hour show, this show would be on for seasons and seasons and seasons.
Yeah,
Devon,
yeah,
enjoy the one season you're going to get of Wedding Band. And the same thing is true of The Good Guys. I freaking love The Good Guys, but it's an hour-long comedy, and comedy doesn't exist in 44 minutes.
right,
You
right,
want it
right.
short. You want it like quick, 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 and then the next episode where everything is reset. So the second I saw that, well, when I saw the Orville was an hour long, the pilot, I'm like, well, it's the pilot. Maybe that's why it's an hour long.
Yeah,
But no, seeing that like yesterday's episode was also an hour, I'm like, you're shooting yourself in the foot to begin with.
right.
There's no reason that this should be an hour long. Even though you guys are like spoofing Star Trek, like if that's what you're looking at, and then like, and we're gonna make jokes on it, you don't need to have the same runtime. You're already hurting yourself from moment one.
Yeah. Again, I wonder, like, now seeing what they can do on things like Netflix and Hulu, where like you can have episodes that are literally 40 minutes, oh, this episode's 40, this episode's 22, because that's just all this story, that's all this episode needed. Like I wonder if it would be one of those things where it would do better if it had that freedom to be as long just as it needed to be, so like, yeah, majority of it's 30-minute episodes, but every now and then you get a 37-minute episode, because they just needed that extra few minutes to get the joke or something. I don't know. I don't know, man. Like I'm so I, I I'm so disappointed that that work can't be better. So like I just don't know how to feel about it.
Right. But like, you know what you're talking about? Like, I read a whole article this week lamenting the loss of the opening sequence. How like Netflix had the opportunity to save it, and then like they kind of killed it because like Glow had a beautiful opening sequence on the first episode and then just a title card after that. And then with the introduction of things like skip intro and how
Hmm.
like they're killing the opening sequence, you think about the opening sequence and what it really was the ability for showmakers to make less show.
Oh yeah.
And like and it's weird that like, so like the longest opening credit sequence is probably about a minute, right? And it's weird to think that like the Simpsons went from that whole like look across Springfield in the beginning to just like Homer coming home and them sitting on the couch,
Yeah,
right?
when they needed to make longer episodes, they could cut time out of the opening sequence for them to do that. Yeah.
Right. And so like that thing that you just discussed where like Netflix will give them that like you can do a 37-minute episode as opposed to a 22-minute episode because you need that extra time to tell the story. Like that has existed forever in animation and in like in TV. Like
Hmm.
cuz you could shorten the Cheers theme, like they've shortened the Cheers theme so they could have
Yeah, but
more show there.
whereas it existed before in like matters of like seconds and maybe a minute, now they can have upwards of 10 extra minutes on an episode, you know?
Right, but all I'm saying is that we decided to like get rid of that the opening credits,
Hmm.
and that has had the negative effect of like, all right, this episode really only needed 20 minutes to tell the story, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So we'll
yeah.
fill it with the opening song instead of, well, we got to fill it with an extra scene,
Hmm.
right? Like we need another minute scene, or we need to like
Hmm.
let the scene breathe a little bit, and it's like, but the scene didn't really need to breathe, right?
Yeah.
So it, I don't know. It's just something that's like that's interesting that you bring it up like that. Because yes, on streaming shows like HBO or like even FXX, that was weird.
Hmm.
FXX allows their shows to go long if it comes down to it. Like You're the
Right.
Worst. If you're taping You're the Worst on your DVR, you know to like extend every episode by 5 minutes, or you might miss something. It's strange.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Like, you're right. Like, that ability is huge. But that being said, even that ability, having that choice and that option being such a big part of like making compelling television, the Orville should not be an hour-long show, which
No,
was the
but that's what I
central
mean is like
thesis.
right, which is exactly why I think it needed something like a Netflix or a Hulu where they could have gone and done a half an hour series with the ability to extend episodes if they needed to, you know, as opposed to having to choose between either just half hour episodes or just hour long episodes and having no choice in between. Having the ability to be like, no, like 6 out of the 11 episodes we want to make only really need 30-35 minutes, but like these other 4 episodes, 5 episodes, we need them to go like 45. So like now they're in this position where they're like, well, we need 45 for those episodes, so let's just expand all of the 30-minute ones, and you end up with a lot of filler nonsense and more opportunity to piss off your audience, you know, than you really needed. But you really needed that hour slot for those other episodes, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know,
it's a
man.
strange
It's a
strange
weird
duck.
conversation, right?
All right,
All
do
right.
we have a
Last couple of
yeah?
things
Can we
I
lightning
wanted to
round
talk
the
about.
remainder?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the two that we should talk about for sure are Will and Grace and Roseanne coming back. Um, one of them mid-season, yeah. Roseanne's mid-season, whereas Will and Grace is actually starting September 28th. Just we're seeing these come back and not on streaming service, but actually back to television. Interesting. How do you feel about Roseanne coming back, man?
Um.
Especially with the whole we're ignoring the last few parts of the series.
Oh, good. I feel great about that because the ninth
Yeah,
season like totally went off the fucking end.
yeah.
Like the fact that it's all a TV show and like it's her ideal version of the world, very strange. I'm happy that it's coming back because I've been watching a lot of the reruns on Laugh TV, which if you
Nice.
have Laugh in your area, watch it. I mean, just for the fact that they show Empty Nest. I love Empty Nest. Moving on. I'm excited to see Roseanne back, but of all the shows that could come back, it seems odd that Roseanne would be one that would be chosen.
Yeah.
Like,
I Yeah, I mean, like it's weird because at the time it was a hugely important like cultural phenomenon. Like it really was. Like the way that it talked about certain things and approached certain controversial things. I mean, you had your very first major character come out on television on Roseanne. Um, like there's all of the stuff about the fact that they were a lower class, that which was being addressed on other shows, but not at its
Not in
moment,
three
not in the
dimensions. Like
right, not in the way
that.
that
Yeah.
Roseanne was approaching it. There's a lot to be said about how they were approaching a lot of the same stuff Married with Children was, but whereas Married with Children is now considered like the vulgar, like mess of a show that it was back then, Roseanne was addressing the same exact issues, but in a classier way, shall we say. So like in its moment, it was like hugely important, and I feel like a lot of people creatively around it still feel like it can be still. So I'm interested to see if they're right, because I just don't know if there's room for a show like Roseanne anymore, because we just don't care about the stuff that we cared about then, you know?
I mean, I think Roseanne, like you said, it is hugely important, but I think I don't know if it feels like it's sort of treading on hollow ground a little bit.
Okay, yeah,
Like this is something that like is revered and is still relevant years and years later. So it seems like the odd one to cash in on. Where like
yeah.
Will and Grace, it makes perfect sense where they would want to cash in on that.
Well, and the thing about Will and Grace is what they get to come into is they get to come into a world completely different than it was when they did the first series, because they were doing a show about being gay, and making their main characters gay and dealing with that in a world that was not very kind to that particular sect of people, right? Whereas now gay marriage is legal, it's much more accepted, it's everybody knows somebody, right? Like we're talking about the fact that like they came out to fight a fight 2 decades ago when they started, and now that fight is won. What is that world like for those characters? That's super interesting to me. Whereas with like Roseanne, like we're dealing with a lot of the same issues that show was still talking about back then, but we're dealing with them in a way that we don't need shows like Roseanne to do anymore. So like and this might be the hollow ground thing that you're talking about. Like we don't need Roseanne to be what it was. So what is it now except like sanctimonious? Like it's going to make us all feel like crap sometimes. Like I can't imagine what that show is going to do that some other show doesn't do better now. Whereas like Will and Grace, I'm super interested to see what they have to say now about the state of things, now that things like gay marriage is legal and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah,
I feel like Will and Grace still has something to say.
it's very strange because of the two, the one that feels more like a cash grab is Roseanne.
Hmm.
Like especially when like you need to also consider that like in the interim, NBC has tried and failed to have shows that were primarily like helmed by I can't think of her name. That's why I'm Sean Hayes and Grace, Deborah
Oh,
Messing.
Deborah Messing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like they've tried to have these shows that were them, like Sean Saves the World or whatever that was called, where he was
Hmm.
trying to raise the kid, and then like Sean Hayes, like NBC has tried and failed multiple times to give him something after Will and Grace.
Yeah.
Deborah Messing, Smash, The Mysteries of Laura, like they've both existed in this sort of like we're still attached to NBC, but we're not able to do anything where like Eric McCormick went out and did Perception, right? Like I can't think of anything
Hmm.
else he did besides the show Perception, which was a great show. And Megan Mullally's gonna land on her feet no matter what, because
Yeah,
that
she'll be
that
fine.
woman works. She fucking
Yeah.
works. She don't give a shit about nothing, right? So like it's for people where like this is perfect for NBC because it's like they were almost biding their time, waiting for when Will
Waiting for the
and
chance to do
Grace
this.
would be relevant again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
well,
and that's what it is. Is like at the time, Will and Grace kind of ran out of things to say, so it ended, yeah, gracefully. But now we're
wait,
back to the
wait. Oh,
point
you missed it.
where,
Willingly and gracefully. Come on,
oh,
man. You were almost there with the perfect, like the perfection.
oh yeah. But yeah, so like what I was saying, like I am interested to see what these guys have to say, and you're right. It feels like NBC was just kind of keeping these guys on the bench, just waiting for the chance to do at least this 12 episode return, right? And that's all it ends up being. That's all it ends up being. But I think it'll still be really
I'm pretty
important for
sure it's
NBC
already
to do
been
that.
renewed for season 2.
And I think before it even came out,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, man. But that's it for the. I mean, that's not it for the upcoming
Yeah, there's a
seasons.
lot,
There's some
and
other
and
stuff
we
that
can
we
address
definitely
other
didn't talk about.
stuff. Yeah, I
There's
don't
things
know.
I'm purposely ignoring. So if there's something at home that you're yelling at the your iPod about right now, if I didn't say it, there's probably a good reason why.
That being said, if you are at your iPod at home and yelling about something you wish we talked about, hit us up on the Twitter at the Say Report. Or if it's specifically Sejohn cultivated this list for today, so get him at Siege versus the World.
Yeah, or you can get Devon at Devon D. Decker.
Right, but don't get me because Sejon's the bad guy. If he avoided the show you wanted us to talk about.
That's
If you're like, why did you talk about 9JKL and not The Crossing? Because The Crossing, Sejon! How did we not talk about The Crossing?
because I just don't have an opinion one way or the other on the crossing.
Well, so there's something to look forward to next week, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to force Sejon to talk about The Crossing. So you have that to look
I'm going to
forward
talk
to.
about young Sheldon with you, so congratulations. You
Oh,
brought up this
no!
conversation.
So you have that to look forward to next week on The Say Report.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Selwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.